Welcome. Today we're at Tonkin Toyota in Portland, down 122nd Way, and I'm here with Dan Rains, who's one of the mentors at Tonkins. Say hi, Dan.
Hi.
And this is Jeremy Anderson. He's a shop foreman there at Tonkin Toyota here. So today the objective of this is to show you guys and give you a little overview of pay plans and what's offered, and maybe give you some tips to help you survive flat rate. And so we have some questions here, and we're going to do a little informal video. And these two guys have been kind enough to lend their time to you as students and to me, and to make this video. So let's start out with Jeremy. So Jeremy, what type of pay structure does your particular dealership work under? What do you offer the T10 students?
For T10, we actually have a few different pay structures that we can go by. It all depends on the person itself and how they want to build through the company. So we can either start out with an hourly pay structure and work their way into a flat rate system if that makes them feel more comfortable to ease into. We also do a flat rate with a guarantee. So if you're coming in and you want to just dive right into flat rate, we also have a guarantee. That way you have a cushion to fall back on, so you're not scared that, hey, I'm not going to be able to make hours to make a living. So there's a guarantee that you can fall back on. That guarantee will eventually go away to where you'll eventually just be straight flat rate. We like to think of it as like a training wheel system, try to help you get moving. And then obviously there's just a straight flat rate system to where you're 100% flat rate. What the hours you flag or the hours you take home with you.
Good. Thank you, Jeremy. So what do you find that most of the students like the best when they come in, the first year students when they first start here, and how fast are they to want to be on flat rate?
I've seen two different types of people come out of T10. I've seen quite a bit of our T10 students. You get the T10 students that come in that are really gun shy on the flat rate system because they're not sure that they're going to be fast enough to make the money. But I've also seen the guys that just want to dive right in, and for the most part it seems like the guys that have a really good understanding of the work that they need to perform, those guys are the guys that actually want to just go straight for the flat rate, so they have confidence in their work. On the other end of that, the guys that come in kind of gun shy, where they just want to be hourly for a little bit, those guys usually just seem that they don't understand the flat rate very well. So whenever they learn how the flat rate system works, it seems that once they understand it a bit, they're a little more eased into it.
Good. That's good. That's good advice for young people. So Dan, so what's your opinion? Excuse my panning here, folks. We'll get Dan on here. So what's your opinion of the flat rate pay system? You've been a technician for a lot of years. What do you think?
I've worked flat rate for a lot of years, and it's worked well for me. But I grew up with mechanics and stuff. I was comfortable doing mechanics, and so the flat rate system was comfortable for me. It's something that you need to be careful with, because young guys can get ahead of themselves and start rushing and make mistakes and stuff, and you got to pace yourself. You got to be sure that you don't
work too fast,
right, and make mistakes. And cause problems.
Good. Okay, well, thank you. We'll talk a little bit more about some tips that you can, as technicians, that will help you with flat rate as we go. But for right now, let's go back to Jeremy again, and I'd like to ask Jeremy, there he is, what tips would you give a young technician to help them succeed while working in a flat rate pay structure? What, is there any particular thing that you could say?
Yeah,
that would help 'em?
on a tip, you know, it'd go back to what Dan said to really slow down. You know, you can hurt yourself tremendously in a flat rate system by rushing. The reason for that is if you rush yourself through a job and you cause an instance where you got the engine back together and something just wasn't right, wasn't running properly, and now you got to remove everything that you just did to fix something that was really easy to catch if you would have been going slow. Now all of that time that you thought you were saving yourself to do it quick just caused you to do the job twice.
Sure.
And when you do the job twice, you are not making money on the flat rate system. You need to do it thorough, you know, and slow. Just make sure you're not having to go back over it and do it again, because that's how you lose money in the flat rate system.
Would you agree that, would you guys, all ask both of you this, would you both agree that speed comes with experience
Sure,
Exactly.
sure.
and
Sure.
with repetition?
Yeah.
Like they always say, you know, making a mistake is always the best lesson, but we don't want to be doing that when we're talking about finances and our and learning. So for right now, let's we'll go back to Dan again, and let's ask Dan if do you have a particular system or a work habit that you would suggest to young students to help them with their efficiency, other than slowing down and being careful? And
I think that's the biggest thing, is to try and pace yourself and not get too much on your plate where you're rushing and having, that's the biggest problem, I think, is
The rushing?
is getting behind, and you're trying to go faster than you're comfortable with.
okay, I've also heard, you guys can both, either one of you, comment on this, that when you're talking about getting behind or just rushing, a lot of different things when it comes to flat rate and students, but one of the things that, and I try to tell some of the students, is to watch their mentors close, that just watch their movements and how they don't waste motion. They're not running around in a circle, and all of their movements are targeted.
That's
And I think as flat rate technicians, would you guys agree that that's something that really is crucial to learning how to make money?
Yeah, and organizing your tools and how you place your tools and where you place your tools. So you're not, where did I leave this? Where did I lay that down? If you place
Absolutely.
everything on your workbench in an orderly fashion, it
Good.
helps.
Yeah.
So,
All right, I think we're gonna see if we can get you guys focused in here. There we go. We'll just have you both on at the same time. All right, so Jeremy, what do you see the biggest mistake technicians make when working flat rate, other than being too fast, or, you know, what kind of is there something in particular that a lot of young guys do when they first start?
Yeah, you know, I think the biggest mistake that I've noticed over with a lot of the guys that I've mentored and got to oversee is whenever they come in and they think they're flat rate, they think they need to take on as much as they can. That way they know that money is on their plate. And when you do that, I think you're setting yourself up for disaster. If you take on a lot of jobs, yes, the money is, you can see that you have the hours there, but you have those in the back of your mind when you're working on one vehicle. So when you're working on one vehicle and you're trying to get that one through and completed correctly, you have that whole pile of vehicles that you have on your plate in the back of your mind, and that sets up for disaster. You'll forget something, and then you're going to let this vehicle out. There'll be something easily missed that could be catastrophic, and then that vehicle leaves, and then you've got another one you're bringing in, and you work on. Yeah, you might get that workload done, but it goes back to when the vehicle returns, you just lost money.
Sure.
Because now you got to repair those.
So in other words, to kind of be a little bit, coin an old phrase, one bird in the hand's better than two in the bush.
Yes.
So, good. Well, thank you. Okay, so Dan, what's your favorite type of pay system? Have you ever worked by the hour, a sliding scale, or any of those things? Maybe
not in the automotive field.
always been flat rate.
I've always been flat rate.
Yeah.
I worked for myself for a lot of years, and then I went to work for the dealerships, and they were always flat
It
rate.
was always flat rate? Okay. I think a majority of technicians would say that a fair flat rate system is a good pay plan to work underneath.
I'd like to say one thing is it kind of falls into the line of pacing yourself, but you can make a lot of money one week and you can have another week where it falls off and it's a little bit slower. So you need to budget, you need to watch it. When you have those good weeks, you want to
Pace yourself so that you don't.
yourself out.
I know personally I've been in a situation where you set yourself up for disaster by
Sure.
having to make money, and when you're working on a commission job, there's nothing worse than feeling that pressure, right? And I think the cars suffer and everybody suffers. So, so you guys, I'll just ask you both this. Do you guys have any other advice you'd like to share pertaining to working in a dealership? Any kind of pay structure as far as the things with flat rate or pay structures or I know one thing that I always try to tell everybody is to make sure that they're willing to work and that they're there ready to go when it's time to start, and they don't want to start thinking about going home too early. That's one of the keys to making money. Any other things like that you guys can think of?
Well,
Anything to add or?
back to what Dan was talking about with keeping your tools clean and in line and everything set in a, where you know where everything's at. If you get a habit of doing that when you work on vehicles as well with the parts, so when you take bolts off of a valve cover or a timing cover or whatever, and you lay those over where you'll remember that those go to that, and then the alternator you lay in, you just kind of uniformity of the way you take the engine apart.
Yeah,
Organization saves time and makes money, because when you're going back together with the vehicle, instead of having a whole handful or a tray full of bolts that you're having to go through to see which one goes where, that's a loss of money in a flat rate system.
That's how some guys do it too. They just throw everything in
Yes,
a box.
and you'll see that guy, and those are the same guys that do that, where they throw their bolts and nuts and everything into a tray.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the same guys that will come to you later and say, I'm struggling and making money in a flat rate system.
Sure.
But if you actually have uniformity and you see the guys come out and they have everything set up nicely, their parts that what they're taking off the vehicle set up nicely, goes together smooth, and those are the guys that are like a greased wheel, man.
Sure.
It just goes perfect.
I'm sure you guys would agree too that as a technician for myself, one of the things that was always kind of a pet peeve for me and watching other people work were people that didn't keep their stalls cleaned, and when they take a part off, it hits the floor, and they're not very organized, and when they're trying to work, they're trying to move and slipping in the antifreeze and tripping over parts and stuff, and that goes right along with all of that organization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you guys would agree on that.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, good. So, we have somebody at the door here.
Let me see.
Just take a little break here. So, I hope you guys are enjoying this. Again, I'd like to thank Dan and Jeremy for taking time out of their day to talk to you guys about flat rate and pay and how they've found success and so Jeremy, I know that you went to participate in a lot of the training for the dealership at the dealership level for management and so on, and that Toyota has some new opinions as far as flat rate and moving forward, that some things that may change. Could you shed some light on that for these young guys?
Yeah, they're actually they're really digging into the T10 program. They want to know what the guys think or what their fear is whenever they go into the dealership world. So coming out of T10, Toyota's realized that whenever kids come out of T10, they're coming into the big world of work and making money and cutting a paycheck and having to work under management, and they want to find out what pay structure is going to benefit a T10 student coming out of college. So just like I spoke earlier about the hourly, the guarantees, and the straight flat rate, and different adjusted pay plans like that. Tonkin is actually one of the
Industry leaders, would you
well,
say?
yeah, I would say industry leader or pilots for what Toyota was wanting to try. So we've tried all the different pay structures or pay plans with different T10 students that came out, and we'll let one guy be on hourly, one guy be on just straight flat rate, and this is if they choose to do that, and some that are on flat rate with a guarantee. That way Toyota gets input on which one worked best for the T10 student, which one that we got bad feedback for, that hey, if I would have not been on hourly and been on flat rate, I would have made more money, or vice versa. So we're actually being a pilot for Toyota just to see which one's working best. And so far, a lot of the T10 students that came out, when they were on hourly, I've noticed that that you can do the math and you know what you're going home with every single day. And that's a comforting thing for a lot of people. But a lot of the students that were on a straight flat rate system, they also did the math and they seen that they were able to make 18 hours in a day, where when you're hourly, you're stuck to your 8 hours a day.
Okay,
Right?
Yeah.
So they quickly realized that you can, like Dan was saying, you can make a lot of hours in a day, but there's also days where
You don't make
there's
any
not
money.
a lot of work, right?
Right.
Well, it's not that you're stuck or you're not making any money, it's just the money don't come through the door that day, right? That happens. So you do got to pace yourself, but in the long run, when you spread it over a big period, maybe a year, and when you spread it out, you will make money in the long run if you do it properly on flat rate than hourly.
Good. Well, that's good advice. Let me throw this in there just because it's. I know Toyota's big on ASEs and the school is big on that, and I'm sure that. And we're talking about pay here in general. So, but we're we're trying to concentrate a little bit more on the structures versus the pay. But how important is it for these students to get their ASEs, and how much do you for yourself, for your dealership at Tonkins here? That's a significant amount of chance for the students to get a raise and to benefit themselves, correct?
Yes, so here at Tonkin, our director, and some, I shouldn't say, I can't speak for other dealerships, but
Just in
for
general.
this dealership in particular, our management encourage the ASEs for the raise. A lot of places won't push you to get your ASEs because they have to give you more money if you get your ASEs. I guess don't have to, but you would hope they did, right? Here at Tonkin, if you get your ASEs, you get a raise immediately. As soon as the paper hits the desk and you've got your ASEs, you get a raise.
Good.
Right? So the way we put it is if you don't have all your ASEs, then you aren't ready for the raise, right? So, and that's all on the person himself, to pace himself. If you came with all 8 of your ASEs out of T10, you're going to be making the same dollar amount that a guy came in just out of college and didn't have any ASEs and worked for years and got his 8 ASEs, would be making a certain amount of money.
Sure.
If you came out of T10 with all 8 ASEs, you start where pretty close, or if not, right where that guy is.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing for students to know, so that they know the importance of getting those things.
Sure, that is an absolute.
So, well, we're kind of getting into about the end of this here. You guys got anything to add before we wrap this up? Dan, you got any advice, anything that you could tell a new guy that was going to come in and shake your hand and say, you're my mentor for the next few weeks?
I just gotta say good luck, and it's a hard road to tow. It's a tough job, but you get your knowledge, get your schooling and stuff, and
Cool.
and it'll work good for you.
Anything,
Make a
Jeremy?
good living with it.
Anything for students coming in? Anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, whenever you, with all the kids that I got to mentor, the youth that I got to mentor and look over, and Dan's got to actually look over some of the same guys that I got to
Sure.
work with. The only thing I would say is don't come in with a closed mind. When you come into a dealership, you should be like a sponge, and you would want to absorb any knowledge that you can from any person that's willing to give it. So when you come in, and you were to work with Dan's got a lot of good tips on how to make money on the flat rate system. And it's not, you don't want to lose integrity of a repair whenever you do flat rate, but there's ways that you can make money at flat rate. And a lot of the older guys and the guys that have been in the business for a long time, they do know a lot of tips to help the younger guys make money, and to where they don't waste a lot of time in areas.
So you'd say relationships are important, communication,
Absolutely.
an open mind,
Yes.
and have reasonable expectations too, probably as far as pay and what they should expect. I think that most of the things that we've said here are not just Toyota specific; they're industry specific, and I think for students, I think it's always good to communicate, have an open mind, and be a sponge. So with that, if you guys have no more great advice for the students, I'm going to put this back on my ugly mug here, and we wish you good luck with this. I hope that you get something out of this video. Take some advice. I'm going to be showing this to everyone, from the Audi students to the Honda students and to all of the Toyota students. So I hope that you guys really do take this into consideration and think about this hard, because this is your life. This is how you're going to pay your bills. It's how you're going to buy your groceries. So with that, thank you for watching, and again, thanks to Dan, and thanks to Jeremy, and thanks to Eric for allowing us to do this in his office. So have a great day. Thank you.